So 2024 has been a wild year here for the sneaker scene. I feel like we've kind of had this gradual shift over the last 2 or 3 years from kind of like this hype beast era to what we're now in, which I like to refer to kind of as like this TikTok fashion era. We've seen a lot of creatives. We've lost creatives, a lot of pioneers that have pushed the industry forward. Of course, rest in peace to Virgil. We got Ye just, being Ye. So with all of that being said, I feel like this year is a pivotal year where we've seen a lot of people kind of like diversify their wardrobe. In the past, you may have just worn, like, let's say all Jordans, or maybe you had a closet full of Yeezys, but more so now than ever, I feel like people are more so kind of like diversifying their profile. So today I want to kind of take a look back here at the trends that we saw emerge here in 2024, as well as take a look forward here into 2025 as I kind of give you guys some predictions. But overall, we're going to look at the landscape overall and kind of predict, what trends we can see moving forward. So what's going on, everybody? Is J.A. Salute to you for tuning in. If you guys enjoy these updates, help support the channel by smashing the like button down below. Now, when we refer to 2024 sneaker trends, of course, we got to refer to quite possibly probably the biggest trend of the year, and that would have to be the Y2K retro runner, whatever you want to call it. Now, as far as when it comes to this trend right here, I would say Asics may have pioneered this style just due to the fact that I would say probably like 2022, I started to see a lot of these Asics runners, specifically the Gel Cayano 14, actually start to pop up on kind of like my explore page over on Instagram or whatever. But then in 2024, it seems like this sneaker has just completely kind of taken over, and Asics, they've taken full advantage of it, introducing new styles which share a similar design language, but of course come in with a little more affordable price point. So I'm referring to pairs such as the Gel 1130. Them joints are a smash hit. You're seeing everybody rocking them, coming in at like $100. Real nice price point. We also got the Gel NYC, which of course Asics did make a big push with the Hidden NY collaboration that we saw drop this year. And then of course we can't forget about the GT 2160. So of course all of these styles, you're pretty much seeing so many people rocking these nowadays. And as far as this kind of like Y2K mesh runner trend, do you guys feel like this is going to die coming up here in 2025? I would say while it's kind of starting to get a little played out, almost like in fashion circles when it comes to like the corporate side of things, they saw that this year this style of shoes was a smash hit. So you guys already know Asics, they're gonna have a whole bunch more of these pairs, set to drop coming up here in 2025. So come this year, we're gonna see a lot more of this style, so much that it may start to get played out. And Asics, they refer to this style of sneakers kind of like in their sports style category, not necessarily like made for running, but more of like a lifestyle meets runner shoe type of vibe. And of course, taking full advantage of this new trend, we can't forget about New Balance, which as far as this year, it feels like the go-to model from New Balance most definitely had to be the 1906. Whether you have different variations such as the 1906R, they introduced the 1906A, we also got the 1906U, as well as the new 1906L, which refers to loafer. New Balance isn't stopping with this style anytime soon. And it seems like as far as like the big emphasis on this style, they pushed away from models like in last year. I feel like they had a big push on, say, styles like the 2002R or even the New Balance 610. I feel like they're not even making new pairs of those anymore. Of course, we can't forget about all the high profile collaborations, which I feel like New Balance utilizes their collaborations the best, whether it's Action Bronson, Salehi, Joe Freshgoods. This is the way that they use to like kind of implement their new models, bring some hype, some attention to those sneakers. And then of course they push them out with more massive GR releases. So the 1906 was everywhere. This is a sneaker you're seeing again, people rocking all the time. If you walk into your local mall, you're going to see nothing but people rocking these right here. And I would have to say New Balance kind of overdid it a little bit too much with this sneaker. But then again, why stop when everybody seems to love this model right here? Of course, the 990 series continues to do its thing. You have the Made in USA line, which features a lot of those staples. That continues to be, pumping out more and more great releases for sneakerheads. And then, of course, we can't forget about the 9060, which is a model I just see so many people rocking, especially a lot of women and a lot of children. I feel like the 9060 is almost kind of like in a lane of its own when it comes to New Balance sneakers. They're not really pumping out a lot of collaborations with this model, but for some reason, it still just continues to be popular. You rarely see these pairs go on sale. So this continues to be a huge hit for New Balance. I saw a whole bunch of people rocking these last year and this year. Even without the collaborations, I'm still seeing people continue to rock this model. So for New Balance moving forward into 2025, what I would like to see them do is kind of slow things down with the 1906. I feel like they overdid it just a little bit too much with that model. We've seen them gradually start to introduce the New Balance 740 V2, which is a more budget-friendly version, I would say, of the 1906Rs, coming in at a retail of $110. I would say this is a model which is more in that budget-friendly price range, kind of competing with some of those Asics models that we just spoke on. I feel like so far that model hasn't really caught on, but then again, they've just introduced it this year. We'll see how that model fares in 2025, which I'm sure New Balance will have a bigger, heavier push. We'll probably see these joints dropping a lot more in stores at some of the retail partners and everything like that. So that should be a big one for New Balance moving forward. And of course, I think they're going to continue to push more pairs of the 1000, which to me, I feel like the 1000 wasn't a huge hit, but we'll see what's in store for 2025 and what will be the next new big model, that they decide to push. We'll see how it all goes down. So here's the 740, again, coming in at $110. Had some nice colorways of this model, and I feel like for next year, we'll see what it does. For me, I wanted to like these, but I'm not a huge fan of like the updated sole that they pushed on us here. Now for Nike, I feel like this was the one that nobody really saw coming, or maybe you did see it coming, because for the first time, as far as like the stock market goes and everything, we did see Nike actually report a loss this year for the first time. I guess it was like 20, 30 years or something. They even fired their CEO, and it seems to be a big headline that Nike is lacking in innovation. But for me, just kind of looking at the sneaker scene overall and like what people are wearing, I feel like this is the year that we saw the dunk low become uncool. Of course, everybody knows about the memes of like the panda dunks and everything like that. But nowadays, as far as like the kids and everything, last year, I feel like everybody was wearing dunks, not even pandas, but just like dunk lows were like the cool sneaker. Even hype beasts were going crazy for dunk lows. But now I'm seeing a lot of people that were used to wearing dunk lows this year. They might have a pair of Sambas. They might have a pair of Asics Gel 1130s, or maybe even a pair of New Balance 1906s. So this has been a massive fall off for the dunk low. Of course, the Air Force One will continue to be a staple. There's nothing better than a good classic pair of white on white Air Force One low. So that one, it will never be going away. I feel like the Zoom Vomero 5 definitely had a moment as we've seen a resurgence, in these retro runners. But for some reason, I feel like Nike didn't really take advantage of the Vomero 5. What they did was they had these like massive general release pairs, and then they tried to release these kind of like more limited pairs, which I feel like when it comes to a model like this, they should have probably took a playbook from the Adidas Sambas and just made these like widely, easily available, because it seemed to be a model that people rock with. I feel like they could have even mixed in a few little high profile collaborations, to keep the momentum going with the Vomero 5. But it seems like this was a sneaker that was really popular at the beginning of the year, but winding down towards 2024, heading into 2025, I don't know if the Zoom Vomero 5 has enough star power, to make a big impact or a big splash coming up in 2025. And then, of course, we know Nike, they're going to be pushing the Air Max line, which they're going to be introducing the new Air Max DNA, which I feel like them joints are kind of giving like on cloud vibes. I'm not really sure if that's going to be a big hit. I could kind of just see those being like the DN, just like the new Air Max release of the year, which will kind of just come and go. They also have a big emphasis on the Air Max 1000, which they did do a little soft launch. That's in collaboration with Zellerfield, of course, the leaders in 3D printing. But while I did want to like the Air Max 1000, I just feel like the design is kind of clunky, a little bit outdated looking, and I really don't see them being a smash hit like maybe Nike thought they would be. But we'll see what happens with those come next year. And then kind of a sleeper prediction, as far as trends and everything for 2025, I feel like we're going to see a lot more people just casually rocking Nike Shocks again. I feel like this was a big hit in like the mid 2000s, like the 2010s. I think we started to see the Nike Shock kind of fade out. But with high profile, high fashion collaborations with Martine Rose, we're starting to see some of the more fashion enthusiasts kind of rocking shocks. I feel like that's going to be a trend that we'll start to see bubble, here in 2025. And then by the time Nike catches on, they probably won't start hitting us with some, shock releases probably until like 2026 or something like that. But for Nike, who would have ever predicted their downfall like this? Of course, they still are a leader in the industry, but it just seems like, as far as being like the cool it sneaker of the moment, Nike isn't really hitting like it once was. But Jordan Brand, on the other hand, I feel like, people always just, bubble Jordan Brand and Nike together. Of course, they're under the same entity, but I would say Jordan Brand, although we have seen a lot of Jordan retros kind of sitting on shelves, I feel like Jordan releases are still just as popular as ever. I mean, Jordan Brand, they got to continue to pump up their revenue each year, which this year they may have overdid it with the stock numbers and everything, but Jordan retros seem to be just as popular as ever, especially with the kids. Like, I'm seeing kids still rocking Jordan retros, and I feel like it's kind of just embedded in our DNA. It's the storytelling, the history, and everything like that, which has been passed down from generation to generation, which is why I still feel like Jordan retros are still high, even though some pairs are sitting on shelves. I just feel like they kind of maybe produced a little bit too much stock, when it comes to certain releases. But as far as storytelling and everything like that, Jordan Brand will be celebrating their 40th anniversary come 2025. So when you add in the storytelling with some returns of some great classic pairs, I feel like it's going to be a win year for Jordan Brand. But it's going to be interesting to see, the trajectory of models like, let's say, the Jordan 1, which at one point were at the forefront of streetwear. Seems like in the last few years or so, the Jordan 1 has fizzled out. Jordan Brand has kind of maybe overdone it a little bit too much, but then again, they got those bread 85s coming in for $250. That will be a very significant release. I feel like for Jordan 1 releases, they're probably going to fall back a little bit on this model. We also got the shattered backboard Jordan 1s returning. You can't forget about those. That was one of like the first really like cult classic Jordans, which made people like, pay attention to the materials and the leather quality and everything like that. So that'll be an interesting one. We got the UNC Jordan 1s returning. So a lot of like OG classic, like fan favorite type of pairs. And it seems like less filler releases from Jordan Brand this year. So I feel like they're going to have big plans for the 40th anniversary. I feel like the storytelling, everything's all going to come together. And Jordans, although it feels like they may have fell off, trust me, walk outside, you're going to see a whole bunch of people rocking Jordans still to this day. Now, we got to move over to Adidas, which I feel like Adidas, again, I would have never predicted this, after the whole YEEZY fallout and everything like that. I feel like Adidas has kind of navigated through that situation flawlessly, or like as best as you can. And it feels like the original models have kind of been leading the way, as they've been a surprise smash hit. So I felt like in 2023, the Samba was going to like just come and go. But it seems like the Samba isn't going anywhere. Adidas has continued to innovate, putting out different versions of the Sambas. Other original models like the Gazelle Superstars have also became super popular. But then again, those sneakers are kind of like timeless classics, which I understand, why they fit so well in today's like fashion landscape. Plus, Adidas has so many other low profile sneakers, from their vast catalog. Like, low profile shoes are just winning right now. I feel like people are looking for comfort. They're looking for something that's easy to wear, not super loud, subtle, and coming in at an affordable price point, which is why I feel like Adidas has been winning. But I would say for Adidas, they cannot forget about their innovation. I see they're trying to, bring in some new running type of sneakers and everything like that. But I feel like when it comes to the original models, they got to keep pushing out new stuff. They got to continue to dip back into their catalog, because they don't want to they don't want to fall victim like Nike did, just relying on their classics, and continue to innovate, just because they don't want to fall into that same kind of space that Nike did, relying on all their classics like the Dunk Lows and everything, which seem to not be as hot as they once were. And then, of course, we can't forget about Saucony, which they had a huge year this year. Like, I feel like nobody was talking about Saucony, which I used to pronounce Saucony. So this is the first year they're making so much noise that I had to actually learn how to pronounce their name correctly. Now, when it comes to Saucony, I feel like they've definitely taken advantage of the retro runner trend that's emerged. But to me, they might as well make that boy J Tips like the new CEO of the company, because I feel like if it wasn't for him, nobody would be talking about Saucony. And I feel like, unfortunately, out of like all the bigger brands that we spoke on, like New Balance, Asics, which I feel like they're going to be around more, I feel like honestly, Saucony is more so just reliant on their collaborations. I feel like pretty much it was all due to J Tips. I don't think people are going out and really like checking for other GR Sauconys other than like this Omni model, which is pretty cool just because it fits in line with the retro runners. Thankfully, though, they did secure some other high-profile collaborations like West Side Gun, which this pair right here is definitely going to be a huge smash hit. I already know for 2025. But other than that, I mean, what do they have, in store for us? Maybe they got some other high-profile collaborations. But for me, while Saucony, they've been around forever and they are kind of like low-key underrated. I know they got their little diehard fans, but to me, I feel like they live and die on their collaborations. And of course, you got brands like Hoka on Cloud. To be real though, I don't know nothing about them brands. Like, I'd have to bring my mom on here to talk about them or something like that. But of course, they're going to continue to have huge years, as it's pretty much comfort, is king when it comes to those sneakers. You're seeing like all the old folks rocking them joints right there. But it'll be interesting to see if, like, they've thrown any collaborations in the mix, if they get any like the fashion people on their side. So I think they'll continue to have a huge year. And then of course, how could we forget about Yeezy? Yay. I mean, Ye's just being Ye, kind of moving on his own time. He's apparently working on the new album, Bully. We just had a new Yeezy drop. But as far as a proper return to the footwear game in 2025, will this be the year? I feel like our 2024 fans were kind of waiting to see if Ye would drop a new sneaker. We did get the Yeezy pods, but as far as a proper return to the footwear game, some people may feel like he's washed at this point, but to me, I feel like anything that he drops, people are going to be checking for, whether they love it or they hate it. And if he decides to drop a good, decent looking type of sneaker or something like that, I just feel like people are going to eat it up. So I feel like, Yeezy is the wild card. I know it does take years of development sometimes to put out new footwear, but who knows? Maybe they can surprise us with something here in 2025. So as far as trends goes and everything like that, I know like all the old heads are mad at the retro runner, the Asics, the New Balance trend and everything. But I feel like them brands are kind of classics. They'll be here to stay for at least one more year as far as that trend. But we'll see how things go forward. I feel like Nike, this is a year where we're going to see another year of decline just because their new management or the new CEO, he's going to take a little time to get adjusted and everything like that. But as far as Jordans, I think this will be a huge year for Jordans. I think they did like 7 billion last year. I'm predicting they're probably going to do 8 billion this year. So Jordan classics are going to continue to rise. And when it comes to the sneakers scene, like Jordans are still king. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. So that's just my little forecast on 2024 and some predictions that I think will happen for sneakers moving forward here into 2025. But of course, that's just my thoughts. Hopefully I didn't piss anybody off. If you guys disagree with anything I said, of course, that's what the comment section is for. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'm JA. I'll catch you next time. Signing off. Salute.